Secret friends, unite!
Welcome to the Secret Friends Unite, episode 519. This is your guide to the geek side. And we are here to talk about a lot of geeky news, some fun new movies that are out, and we're going to project on the future of certain characters that may not be in a certain doomsday movie. But with that, I'm Todd Oxtra, one of your hosts here. I'll be watching Michigan State, hopefully making it to the Final Four later today. Joined by Charlie Carden.
That's a bracket buster for me. Of course, I mentioned last week I did a bracket at the very last minute, and I auto-generated, but I'm like, well, Michigan State could go all the way, so I did that, and so thank God I'm not dead yet. But hey, you know what? It's a sacrifice of $5 but I'm good. Here on a Sunday afternoon, we got a lot of fun stuff to talk about, so we're going to get right into that after we do a little segment I like to call Paying the Bills, which does not really work at all because these wonderful people support us over on our Patreon. Boom, boom, boom. And as of the time that you're going to get a chance to listen to this, by the time we do our next episode, we will have 5 new people who entered our Patreon giveaway to join up for a whole year, thanks to the wonderful Nias family, our top tier folks. So we're going to be very excited to welcome those 5 new people. But when you're over on Patreon, exclusive shows, we got lots of bonus content, early shows, everything with no ads, other discounted Discord benefits, 1 week for free, 7 whole days, and then as little as $2 a month to stay on board. It's the bomb. These people know what's up. My buddy Derek Trevelyan, Francie, who does my wife's hair, Mr. Luke Lore, Xbox Expansion Pass, and my awesome uncle Tim. Also, John Sedorf, the wonderful Phoenix Sisters Entertainment, our friends Kelly and Crayley, Brendan Myers, Corey and HD, Matthew Keel, our buddy Kurt Krug, who I'm looking forward to us hanging out at Motor City Comic Con next month, but he helps us out with all those really awesome interviews, so I'm really psyched about that. And our friend Tanya Lee, who lives in the South, she's going to be back with us on Code 47 at some point, guesting in the next couple of months, so we're looking forward to that. And as I had already mentioned, the awesome Nias family of the Twin Cities, Sean, Still, and Henry, thank you for being our top supporter and bringing 5 more people into the fold that by the time you listen to this, your time will have lapsed, so you couldn't enter, but we are going to be selecting 5 names out of a virtual hat of the folks who have entered, and then we'll be announcing the winners potentially in some, maybe just on social media, maybe we'll do a YouTube or something, but you will hear about it on or about April the 3rd. So I'm very psyched to have 5 new people on board listening to our stuff. And you know what? I this week's cover, this is how we got to choose those 5 people. We have to give the information to Machine Man somehow back in 1980. We have the 19th issue of his book. Machine Man is this like purple dude. I'm trying to remember if he's a cyborg or if he's just a machine guy. This is not a figure I have in my collection because I don't know that they've ever made a proper one of him. Certainly not for Marvel Legends, or if they did, it was maybe back in the Toy Biz days. I don't really remember. But
He's the brother of Stiltman.
He has Stiltman's legs as his arms. But other than that, he's a dude in a purple suit with like a helmet that like wraps. It's kind of like RoboCop and red eyes, but he's got a flesh-colored face thing happening. But in this, he's fighting Jack-O-Lantern, which is a character. I think this might be Jack-O-Lantern's first appearance.
No, Charlie, you got it. It is indeed his first appearance.
I just remembered. Now, this is from the benefit of the Marvel Unlimited Official Handbook Guide, of which I just completed a 10-volume set in trade paperback of that original 1985 through 1987 series that I grew up on. I managed to find a vendor that had all 10 of them, or he had 7 of the 10 of them, and then I grabbed the others off eBay. So, and I also have them in black and white. So I'm steeped in this, but because I read Machine Man's entry, or Jack-O-Lantern's entry, it mentioned that Machine Man number 19 was his first appearance. So what's going on in this title?
Well, Charlie, it says complete your collection special, or guess what mag won't have a 20th issue. And guess what? People did not complete their collection because this was the last issue of Machine Man. And this cover's crazy. I'm guessing this is happening at a comic book convention, right? Because you've got people that look like heroes but aren't. You've got Sue Storm. Yep, Sue Storm, probably like later years retirement. You've got like a kind of Incredible Hulk, Bruce Banner, but not without the muscles. You've got Batman and Superman in the background, Daredevil, and then you've got this woman in the suit, which
Silver
I don't know who that is.
She's got the
I didn't
board.
see the super board. Okay, got it.
Yeah.
So this is what it's about. But basically, Machine Man is a robot. And I remember really the first time I really read much about him was he was in part of the Marvel Zombies, one of the spin-off titles, where he was used to fight off and can do research because he couldn't be turned into a zombie because he's not human.
Right.
But this issue was the first appearance of Jack-o'-lantern. I love this headline, the synopsis, Charlie. It's called Jolted by Jack-o'-lantern. Delmar Insurance is sponsoring the construction of a high-tech secure super embassy. Byron Benjamin assigns Machine Man to safeguard it for its Halloween costume celebration.
There you go. Costume party.
Machine Man has Gears Garvin repair damage suffered to his face from last issue before the malfunction. So it's a Halloween party, not a convention.
Well, as you see on this, and of course, if you're watching this on YouTube, the banner is torn by him jumping, and Machine Man's big arm is coming down on a table that clearly has a punch bowl. So it's a party. You don't see like Sue Storm there, like, oh, she has something in her hand. Maybe it's a flask. Do you think she spiked it? It's like a little bit of rum, bloop, a little bit of, yeah, exactly.
And Tom DeFalco wrote this. Steve Ditko penciled this in the late 70s, and Frank Miller did the cover. How crazy is that? That's a lot of talent on this book.
The last issue of a last issue being canceled because obviously nobody was reading it. That's
Frank. What you up to?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Do you mind kind of slide it? I'll give you $20, which it was a lot of money back then. But yeah, that looks like fun. Is this something that's available on like Marvel Unlimited?
It is available on Marvel Unlimited, but there was no even premise. So I had to go to the fandom page where they have some really good details about all these comics.
I was just curious because it's been a long time since we've done our fantastic segment where you put the numbers in a random generator and it gives us one of our episodes, and then we take that cover and we read that book and break it down. So I want to get that in the next several episodes because we
got this cover. We got this uncovered, Charlie. Man, that's what we should call that segment.
Put that back in the schedule. But anyway, when I think uncovered, you know what I don't like to think about? Our senior news correspondent, Madam Webb. Ooh. But she's done a lot of stuff in her time. But these days she works for us for the very affordable price of like 25 cents a day. But she's bringing us all the best news and scoops down at the corner of Hollywood and Vine. Let's go check it out.
Now it's time for Madam Webb's Rumors and News. Take it away, boys.
Thank you, Madam Webb. As always, your coverage is greatly appreciated. At this point, I believe every magazine publication you have ever wrote for has now been shuttered and now is owned by Elon Musk. And he will be resurrecting it, and he will also be using AI to recreate your face, your likeness, and your beautiful voice. So watch out.
And you will get no money from it. Well, it was a big week for anyone who had 5 hours of time, or they had like a screen that they could leave open on one of your work monitors, because Marvel did this. Was it Tuesday or Wednesday? It doesn't matter. It was one day this past week where you had the back of the director's chairs that you might see on a film set, where someone's name would be written on it. So over a 5-hour period, they would show the name of one person who is going to be featured in the upcoming Avengers Doomsday, which doesn't, I pointed this out on our Discord just earlier today, which doesn't even start filming until April, which we're right around the corner. So everybody was in quite a tizzy. I got to the end of the day, and I know I put it in our Discord. I said, well, if you watch this clip that Marvel put out, it's 1 minute and 48 seconds. So there was no reason not to wait. But, the article you posted doesn't even have all the names.
I'm going to bring one up. Bring one up. Yeah,
but
it's better with the team. Yeah,
we got a ton of it. While he's doing that, this clip, the 1 minute and 48 clip, goes down. It reveals these names, and then it gets the last chair, which has Robert Downey Jr., and he happens to be sitting in it. He turns his head. He makes the shush noise by holding a finger in front of his mouth, and then he gets up and makes a very Robert Downey Jr.-esque kind of motion, and then he walks off camera, and then it's over. So the real mystery is why these names and why not other names.
240 or 75 million people, it said viewed this. I'm guessing they came in, saw that it was still going, popped out, came back in. So it was like everybody came in for like 85 times to just see is something happening.
For them, it's they think it's a total success. So let's see. The names were
total. Yeah, deadline. The deadline article, if you go down to related stories, is in total 27 cast members.
27 cast members. Some of them are pretty obvious. The cast of the Fantastic Four movie that we're getting this summer. Stars of that we know are still quote unquote alive in regular continuity, says Anthony Mackie, Chris Hemsworth, Sebastian Stan, Paul Rudd. We did see Tanak Huerta Mijira, which is Namor. I'm sure I destroyed that name. My apologies. Simu Liu. Shang-Chi coming back. We've not seen him since 2021. And some of the cast of the upcoming Thunderbolts. But the real meat was names related to Fox's X-Men. We were talking about Sir Patrick Stewart as Charles Xavier, Ian McKellen as Magneto. I just hope they're both still alive in the next 3 months when they're filming this. They're in their 80s. I love them as I do.
Probably the good thing is Professor Xavier is still in a wheelchair, so it makes it easier to be in the movie.
I'm sure glad you said it. But some of the more startling ones is we have the first appearance since X2, X United back 2003 of Alan Cumming as Nightcrawler. That's a big one. Rebecca Romijn returns as Mystique. She appeared only briefly in X-Men First Class in that role. That was her most recent. We did, of course, see Magneto and Professor Xavier in my favorite X-Men film, which is Days of Future Past in 2014. Kelsey Grammer also appeared very briefly in that film as Beast. And then he appeared in a much more CGI film form at the end of The Marvels, which was one of the more recent MCU films. Tying into the end of that. And James Marston as Cyclops.
Sonic's dad.
Sonic's dad. Or, the president in the show we're going to talk about later on. Yeah, exactly. Did we not get one for
Channing Tatum as Gambit?
Well, I was just going to say we got Marston, but we didn't get Jean.
Grey.
We didn't get Famke Johnson. But Channing Tatum as Gambit it's a very tongue in cheek because that's not a role that originated anywhere besides from Deadpool and Wolverine. He did not appear in a mainline film. So that's very fun. So that leads us to believe that other characters that we saw at the end of Deadpool and Wolverine will also appear. But
Tom Hiddleston's a surprise one considering where Loki ended too.
Right. He's at the bundle of the middle of the universe. Exactly. So yeah.
Yeah. What about Ant-Man's tiny chair too? I thought that was pretty clever.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. So there, the internet is abuzz. Where's Tom Holland's name? Where's this? Where's that? It's absolutely. I watched a video right before I came down here. It's very possible that there are contract negotiations going on with all three of the modern Spider-Men. Potentially, because you have the extra layer of the Sony and the Disney ownership, the Sony ownership of Spider-Man and Disney, who has been successful making the films in recent years. So that could be a part of it. We know that Chris Evans we know that he's coming back in some capacity. But the video that I was watching, they made a very good point. Think about Infinity War did not feature Paul Rudd or Jeremy Renner. But in Endgame, they both played very pivotal roles. So what if Spider-Man not in Doomsday, but very big in Secret Wars? Think about it that way. That makes a lot of sense to me.
Yep. A big spoiler, though, I would say the fact that they mentioned Sentry will be in this kind of says Sentry's in this. Which means,
and it's the same thing.
Like he's
the throwing out all the other names of the Thunderbolts characters because you're like, okay, well, they all make it or whatever. So that but whatever. Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. Exactly. So you just don't really know. This is going to be So we're getting
no Captain Marvel, right? We've got no Captain Marvel shown, which is very weird. No Kamal Khan, no Moon Knight. We've got no. I'm trying to think what else. No Scar, and we'll talk about this because this is leading to our Thunderdome will be all about kind of like what is the fate of a lot of these characters that have been created in the MCU, TV, whatever, and where will they continue? So this is kind of like
So that is, it's going to be a big cast, and I know Todd, that's a big hang up for you. You're always like, there's too many people, and no who's going to get the screen time and stuff, and they managed to somehow make it work in Endgame, but we also now have another 5 or 6 years worth of movies. The other but to that is we have 5 or 6 years worth of movies of characters that people kind of don't really care about so much. So I would like to think it's going to be okay, but it depends on, I also thought that they wouldn't try to cram the Inhumans and the Eternals down our throat. Notice none of the Eternals characters are also noted here. What?
Yes. And we'll talk about those friends of ours later, but it is, Charlie, funny you talk about screen time. IGN did a thing about, how much screen time can each character really get? So they break it down. So they have a thing basically on Avengers Endgame. It was 2 hours and 49 minutes, 60 characters total. Average screen time, 2 minutes and 49 seconds, 60 characters. Then Avengers Infinity War, 2 hours and 17 minutes. Wow, that was a half hour shorter. Didn't realize that. 38 characters, so basically almost half were gone.
Yeah.
So 3 minutes and 33 seconds.
Half were gone, because that was the whole plot of the movie. That half were gone.
Yeah. So, and then Avengers Doomsday, which in asterisk, it's a projected runtime. It's based on this. So we don't know how long this movie will actually be yet because they haven't even filmed it. 27 characters are named now. And that means 5 minutes and 40 seconds. But, Charlie, as you know, a lot of these things where you'll see like a show is coming out like 2 weeks. And then they announce casting of someone who's in the show. I'm like, they didn't just hire them and just film them a week ago. They want to still put out information. So we know this is the initial, because even at that trailer we got on YouTube, said, even the tagline was, and we're not over and we're not done yet, or whatever, basically meaning.
Of course not. Yeah. And so people who are all, it's very much simmer down now, hold your horses, or as I said on the Discord, to quote Star-Lord, chill the F out. This doesn't really mean anything. It's just, it's to whet the appetite, as Stanley used to like to say, get people excited. Because again, this is going into production within the next 30 days, but then there's reshoots and things that'll happen over the next 12 months, because this is the summer tentpole of 2026, where Secret Wars will be the summer tentpole.
You're away. That just seems crazy.
Yeah. Exactly.
No, 2027, right?
For Secret Wars, yes. For Secret Wars, this will be next year. We're talking about Doomsday.
And
so
there's only one villain announced. Doctor Doom is the only. Well, Magneto if you count a villain, but so. Unless there's no other villains in this, we know there will be a ton of villains from wherever. Maybe MODOK comes back again.
That'd be great. But I'm very glad that I saved I pointed this out before, but I saved my Secret Wars Battle World promotional map that came out in 2015 when they published that series. That shows all the little fractions of Battle World. And there are some that really feel like that's how that movie is going to take shape. Well, that is the essence of the multiverse, which means like literally anything is open, because each little land is a different reality. So this is nothing to get.
Fury is, we got David Hasselhoff as Nick Fury, of course, will be in this. We know that, Charlie.
Did I tell you that obviously that is in its entirety on YouTube? We made it through maybe 20 minutes of that, and that was as much as I could take. It's unwatchable. It's unwatchable. I may have to disagree with you.
I think it's perfection. But,
I'll tell you what. Well, then I will challenge you that we will both watch it and we will do a breakdown show. Well, then
they even mentioned an LMD in the very beginning of that one, Charlie. How awesome is that?
They're putting it together is terrible. Yeah. But at any rate, so
I would say it's better than Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., but that's my take.
You got yourself in some trouble. We had somebody on that you threw that out, and they were like, "Well, it was a clutch the pearl." I can't remember who it was. Wasn't it LaRon who was like, "I loved Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D." Wasn't it?
I think so.
Yeah,
that's okay. You know what? Some people have good taste, some people don't. Oh well. Moving on to
God.
potentially, and folks, if you don't want any spoilers at all, even in a rumor that might not even happen about what this movie will actually cover off on, there is an article by Geek Tyrant that is basically saying there is some leaks coming from Cosmic Circus, which could be completely fake. And later on Reddit, Marvel Studios spoilers that outlines a storyline which will feature the Avengers, the X-Men, Doctor Doom's war against the TVA. So if you have the TVA, that'll up the ante in number of characters.
Right.
And they said, take this with a grain of salt itself, but potentially where Earth 616 collides with Divergent X-Men universe, described as something similar to Daredevil Born Again's approach. This idea is that will pick up from where X-Men Days of Future Past left off, with Daredevil and Wolverine caught in the chaos. Because
Deadpool,
Deadpool,
Deadpool, not Daredevil. You said Daredevil twice.
Yeah. Oh, Deadpool. Well, they mentioned twice. Well, but at the end of X-Men Days of Future Past, we are then brought back into the world where it's like,
yeah. And it was. I watched another video about this recently. Someone said, well, that. And then you add 5 years and it's Logan. So it's like that setting at the end of Future Past, which is 2023. Yeah. Logan is 2029. So you add in, well, that's 6 years. And then it's this, it could potentially be looked at as it's the same universe because mutants are being killed off by additives in the food, which is the plot line of Logan. Sorry. And then Xavier has a stroke and he kills a bunch of mutants with his brain accidentally. So there's an awful lot to still happen with this, so it's certainly not it's not a clutch the pearls kind of moment, you know what I mean, because there's just too much more to come. Well,
and it just sounds like some of the plot points you've been talking about, they're basically talking about some of the plot points that'll happen to basically separate the characters and like separate plot points within the movie. Is basically there's going to be a team up between the X-Men and the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants. Then meanwhile, back on Earth 616, Captain Marvel, Shang-Chi, Hulk, and Wong are working to bring back Monica home, while Miss Marvel assembles their own team of young heroes. The Fantastic Four are still on their own Earth when Avengers Doomsday begins. Then we've also got Spider-Man, who apparently wants nothing to do with the conflict, but gets dragged in anyway. The leak also claims he'll don the symbiote suit, which is described as a variation of the final No Way Home costume, but in black and white. Doctor Doom is set to play the main villain, with the leak suggesting Victor Von Doom despises King and the TVA, blaming them for the chaos unfolding in the MCU. His vendetta against the TVA leads to a multiversal war within the organization, setting up Avengers Doomsday climatic battle. Doctor Strange and Clea will be part of Doctor Doom's story.
Wow, that's crazy.
Crazy, isn't it? Like, I love how it is. Like, it's piecemealed, so it's giving different things for you to focus on.
Right,
getting teams together. I like that, but it's going to be a shit ton of heavy lifting.
It is, yeah. Well, I mean, you think back to Infinity War it was broken into teams, and they all of it kind of merged together, and they ended up doing it in a way that was absolutely
hammer. Then all those things they had to do.
Yeah. So based on because this is going to be similarly a 2-part year apart kind of deal, kind of like obviously like Infinity War and Endgame was, where they're really down and out at the end, and then they have to find a way to succeed in the second part. So I have faith. You're bringing back the best and the brightest. As Deadpool said, we're at a bit of a low point right now. We've not been necessarily super thrilled with a lot of things that have happened since 2019, since Endgame. But I would love to believe that it could rise again. And now that they're fully embracing the X-Men and the Fantastic Four, the two big missing pieces of the MCU, all that's left is the Eternals and the Inhumans. Let's bring them back too. Oh my God. I'd love a gag where they just, find a way to make sure they're erased from all of humanity. But anyway,
you could say maybe Black Bolt. Black Bolt was killed, and all the humans passed away, or were so sad they just killed themselves.
Oh, geez, I don't think we need to go that dark. All right. Well, speaking of the X-Men, it was 50 years ago that title, which was struggling, it was very struggling in the early 70s and certainly in the 60s.
We're basically in reprints.
They were very much, and it was like bi-monthly, and it was reprints, and they were very much on life support for probably 5 or 6 years before this came along, that they decided to basically dump the existing team, everybody except for Cyclops, and they brought in brand new characters that were absolutely nothing like the people that they were replacing, because your original X-Men were like, oh, golly gee whiz, we're all young kids and brr, 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 and they were pals and this and that, and they were all kids. They bring in this group of like craggy adults. One of them is Wolverine. One of them is, who is Storm, Colossus, Warpath for about 5 minutes until he got killed. Nightcrawler. Was Banshee?
You're forgetting not Banshee. Yep.
Yeah. And they brought him in and they had to fight.
Fire. He ditched. He's like, I don't like you honkies.
I don't. Yeah. Oh, geez. Yeah. That's very 70s word.
I can say it, Charlie. I'm white.
I'm honky. Yeah. That's our word. We're taking it back. So that revitalized the title, and Wolverine took off his character. And that was that the beginning of Claremont's time with the X-Men? Because he was on it for like 17 years.
Claremont was later. It was Dave Cockrum, and I'm trying to remember
and then it was Byrne came out later. Yeah.
It was Len Wein and Dave Cockrum. Sorry.
Right. Len Wein, who created Wolverine, so you could see how they
because he was a Hulk writer forever, and then Dave Cockrum was the artist at the time, and then it switched to Claremont.
I would get him on the spotlight, but I'm pretty sure that he's dead. So that
Len Wein?
Isn't he?
I don't know. That would be pretty interesting.
I think he passed away recently. If anybody could do it, Tom DeFalco could help us. But yes, I just don't know. But anyway,
we're going to put the Tom DeFalco signal up. Tom DeFalco, you're all
TD in the sky. No. TDF, because it's D Falco.
God, that sounds like D. Never mind. Moving on. I was going to say something else.
Oh my God, it's not the STD signal. No. But anyway, they're bringing back a new version of Giant Size X-Men, led by Kamala Khan, Ms. Marvel, and the Old Man Legion. So it's a legion of old people. That's what this headline says. Is that a reprint?
This one's an odd one. So It's not really a ongoing comic. This is an event featuring 5 pivotal moments of X-Men time. Okay. And essentially, if you remember Legion, he's the one that kicked off the Age of Apocalypse.
Oh, yeah.
So now we're getting like this alternate version of Legion, which is Old Man Legion, like Old Man Logan, which is going to essentially take Kamala Khan through all of these pivotal X-Men moments, and she's going to get to experience it.
So it's like Endgame, where you could be like, we got to go back in history and see this.
Kind of. Yeah. So we're getting 5 number ones. We're getting Giant Size X-Men number 1, which is witness history's first fracture as Kamala Khan is pulled into the X-Men's past.
Yeah.
Giant Size Dark Phoenix Saga number 1, a new revelation about Jean Grey's fate could change everything. Giant Size Age of Apocalypse number 1, reality's warping. Is this the world Apocalypse was always meant to rule? Giant Size X-Men House of M, number 1, mutants rule supreme, but at what cost? Kamala must face Magneto. And then Giant Size X-Men number 2, the shocking finale redefines mutant history forward. I love this concept. It's 5 issues, 5 cool touch points, very easy to get my head wrapped around. And then this will officially really integrate Kamala into being an X-Men part of that universe. So I like this. It's short and simple. And it won't have 85 parts, Charlie.
Ooh, don't tempt fate. What if they decide that what this really needs is an unnecessary list for a crossover? So what I'm looking forward to, because I'm sure it'll come along, is I've been really big into these facsimile covers right now, because I put them on all my socials. I'm doing my office in kind of comic covers. I'll buy a pack of 8 covers for $30, and I'll just go, I'll grab these facsimile ones. So there's just nice clean representation. So I want a Giant Size X-Men number 1. I have a couple of the ones from Days of Future Past right now, but I'm sure that will be a part of it. But this is cool. So are you gonna jump on this? Are you gonna wait until it hits?
I'll probably buy these physically too, just because I'm assuming they'll have cool covers, and it seems like something. It's simple enough to collect, and we have my new comic book shop down the road. Spoilers: I will have a spotlight with him that I will record.
As long as I get my royalties, spotlight's mine now.
Yes. Well, I would have you join, Charlie, but it's going to be at 9 a.m. on a Monday, because that's when he can record it. So I'm like, okay, cool.
Playing hooky. You're
exactly.
playing.
So he's a busy man. He's going to be at the shop and he's going to record it there at 9 a.m. He's like, that's when nobody's there. Of course, nobody's at a comic book shop at 9 a.m. on a Monday. So it's a safe time to record. So
I don't know any comic shop that opens before 11 a.m. So yes, that'd be very surprising.
Yeah, exactly. So it'll be fun, and I'll probably see if I can get a pull list for him on those type of issues. And it'll be fun. It'll have something to talk about. So very cool. So with that coming out, those issues are coming out this summer, but something that we don't know when is coming out, but this is good news in the rumor mill, and that is John Wick director Chad Stahelski reportedly in talks to helm Marvel's Blade movie. This once again is coming to
No, I'm telling you, this is the great white buffalo of any comic book film. It just doesn't.
Yeah,
I don't believe it. This is what Star Wars has with their movie news. Hey, there's going to be a blah blah blah. Hey, such and such director is going to do a story about this thing or that thing, and it's our mutual friend John who said, "I'll believe that there's a Star Wars movie when I'm sitting in the theater and the lights go dark and I see a crawl." This is exciting news for now. And I know the John Wick movies are very exciting. I won't deny it. So there's no doubt that this could be a crazy, beautiful connection. Didn't they lose Mahershala Ali? Didn't he finally say, fuck it, I'm not doing this anymore?
No, I think that's the rumor though. They are going to lose him because he's like 50 something now. He's not a spring chicken. And you know, after a while, it's like the original pitch that he envisioned is just not going to happen anymore. And a lot of things have changed. But in the moral words of, was it Lloyd from Dumb and Dumber? You're saying I got a chance. So that's where we're at. We're at, Charlie.
Oh, man.
But this has gone through. It's on indefinite hold, adding to fan frustration, of course. Now, the latest draft of the script, which was penned by Logan screenwriter Michael Green and Black Widow's Eric Pearson, which I did like Black Widow, has reportedly drawn Stahelski's interest. His name first resurfaced in connection with Blade last month. Before Stahelski, this is what you get from this series. You get end of 2024 with No Time to Die filmmaker Cary Fukunaga, then he worked on True Detective. Then you got some other people also were going to be involved in this. But I think one of the biggest things that would lead me into that makes sense that Stahelski would get involved in this is John Wick is essentially in a place where it's going to have spin-offs and other things like that. But there's really he doesn't have to be involved with it and still be like getting producer credits. He can move on to something new.
I thought you were going to say John Wick doesn't have to be in the John Wick movies like The Mandalorian, because it's just guy in a helmet. I find it first of all, the Blade movies were great, but it came out in a time when the movies were still pretty corny and but it had a great following. Wesley Snipes coming back for Deadpool was absolutely perfectly timed, and he said, "Hey, I'm the one who's ever going to be Blade." And we get the mug to the camera, but it's funny for a different reason because I just can't believe anything about this movie, and like you said, if it's poised to lose its star, how are they going to get anything rolling? You know what I mean? So I don't know, but that does sound exciting because obviously the John Wick movies are money makers. We've got the first real spinoff on the big screen coming out this summer with the ballerina. I don't know, man. I have a hard time. I have a hard time believing, but it doesn't mean it can't happen.
The good news is, though, I did not know this, but Stahelski worked as the second unit director on Captain America: Civil War. So he's got ties to Marvel and could come in and he knows how they work. And, Kevin Feige's probably got a Rolodex of people and saying, hey, who can fix something? Who's been very successful lately with an action-based franchise, with an elderly star? Keanu Reeves elderly, I guess. It's a weird thing to say. And he's got maybe a new way we could bring Blade to life, and that could work. But yeah, got to get these guys like Logan, the guy who worked on the Logan script or did the script, is not a bad idea. Old Man Blade. Maybe it's Old Man Blade, and we bring in Wesley Snipes, and we find out he had a son. He had a son, and it's Blade Jr.
That was how they did Shaft. Don't you remember the Shaft movie that came out a couple of years ago? That it was
Richard
Samuel
Jackson,
and A-Train. The kid who was A-Train was the son. Yeah. Yeah. Oh my goodness.
Can you imagine Samuel L. Jackson ever being like a kid? I can never imagine that. I always think he was a fully formed, like 45-year-old man.
It was. I mean, in his first role in Coming to America in 1988, where he was the guy who stuck up McDowell's, that was him.
Yes.
It was like one of the first things he ever did.
And he still looked like he was 45 years old. He never looked young.
Yeah, never looked young, even though he was probably 12. Hey, we have been doing it again. We've gotten off a bit over on the Facts Geek Life, which is one of our Patreons. We've had a great time talking about Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Yes. Todd, that's one of your favorites. We've had our friend Kelly, who's one of our Patreons, on board. Would love to get her back. I know her life is blowing up right now, so it's kind of hard to track her down. And plus, we've been doing a lot of these spotlights, so there's only so many days of the week that we can get content out, but we will get back to it at some point. But that's been my first real exposure to the show, which came out in, I'm going to say, 97 and ran for maybe 6 or 7 seasons.
It came out when we were in college. So, I remember when I was watching it, and I think you were like, what are you watching, Extra? That sounds horrible, and then left the room. And
I was right. No, because it is. It's a fun show, but it's very much of its time watching it over again. But we do know it's getting a reboot. We've talked about that, but now we're getting some actual details. Sarah Michelle Gellar is coming back, which, due to a lot of controversy with the show, people thought it would never happen. But it seems, it says the new Slayer reportedly seems to skew more like Willow, which is Allison Hannigan's character, than Buffy.
Less cheerleader, more nerd.
Exactly. Yeah. So we're as a cerebral 16-year-old named Nova, though we're fairly certain that name is placeholder, who is a bit more of a loner. So kind of taking it from a different tack. Her buddies will, the Scooby Gang, which was all of her friends. No one has been cast, but the characters have been named. One will be Hugo, an out and proud nerd who comes from money, and Gracie, a young expert on vampires who is an acolyte of Gellar's Buffy. So will she be kind of the Giles of the series? She's the elder stateswoman.
I assume so. Well, she'll probably have some of that role, but it is kind of interesting because that's where it started. Basically you had Xander and Willow and Buffy. So a threesome, kind of the core team, which is great. So going back there. And then we do find out that Nora Zuckerman, Lily Zuckerman, Lilia, Poker Face. They're from Poker Face. Fun show. Attached as writers. Yep. And then Chloe Zhao is attached to direct and executive produce. That's a big name.
Chloe Zhao she did the Eternals. I guess maybe that's not her proudest moment.
She won an Oscar for Nomadland. And then the EPs for this are Geller, Gail Berman, Dolly Parton? Dolly Parton is a producer?
It must be a different Dolly Parton, but that's
no. And then it says Berman the Kazoo, and then all these people EPs were the original EPs on the original Buffy. So that actually kind of makes sense because Buffy was involved in a bunch of other Dolly was, but I need to look that up. So I'm going to pick that because how many Dolly Partons are there, Charlie?
Well, I mean, I did. Who knows? Yeah, no, that's going to be another question for Google because you can't really answer that. But at any rate, to wrap this up with a bow, and we'll get back to about the Dolly Parton bit. If nobody's been cast, cameras aren't rolling, so I'm thinking definitely more the summertime, probably for a mid-2026 release would be my guess.
And Disney Plus, this will be actually probably the most budget Buffy has ever had.
Yeah, you're right because Buffy was on the WB, because WB and it became the CW when that and UPN
Paramount, the Powerment, the UPN and the CW.
And you could always tell that they were. It looked like Doctor Who from the '60s. It was just very much on the nickel, making that show. But it touched the hearts of a lot of people, which means this has got a built-in fan base. And if they can make something good out of it, they will. They will make their nut in this weird streaming world where you never really know if something's successful, except if it's the minutes. But there's no commercials. But there are commercials because by then, probably there will be no commercial-free options available in streaming. Everything.
Well, Disney Plus, they have a commercial-free option now, or a commercial option now. But hopefully the commercial-free sticks around. If not, then they better charge me less. Although probably not.
Exactly correct. So speaking of the Scoobies, now there's talk of a live action Scooby-Doo series from Netflix. Scooby-Doo is another series we talked about on the Facts of Geek Life.
Never ending.
Yeah, I talked about it with my buddy Jonathan Snedeker because he's an older guy, so he's the guy I bring in to talk about older shows. We talked about Batman 66 and Mission Impossible and different stuff on that show. So another reason to tune into the Patreon and listen to all those fun episodes. We have a good time talking about it. So anyway, over on Netflix, a series is moving forward with Josh Applebaum, who is responsible for, it says Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I would assume that's potentially the most recent live action one. And one of the Mission Impossible films, Ghost Protocol, which I think that was one of the better ones, if I'm not mistaken. I think.
They all come together.
But also Venom and Jumanji, Welcome to the Jungle, writer Scott Rosenberg, Applebaum and Rosenberg. That sounds like a duo to be
Like a law firm?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Applebaum, Rosenberg, and Doo. Scooby-Doo.
Associates at law.
Yeah, 8-episode series. Titled, it's going to be a prequel. Early Days of Mystery.
Hey.
Focusing on how they all cross paths. My favorite way of how they cross paths is the Scooby-Doo Apocalypse comic that we read. That was fantastic.
Scooby Natural. We had puppy named Scooby-Doo. Charlie, there have been so many versions of Scooby-Doo at this point that there's no canon, folks. Sorry.
Yeah,
One's breaking canon.
Yeah.
A horrible Velma cartoon. Don't watch that.
My God. Yeah, if there's any series that defies the concept of continuity, it's Scooby-Doo, because there's no such thing. So the official synopsis says during their final summer at camp, old friend Shaggy and Daphne get embroiled in a haunting mystery surrounding a lonely, lost Great Dane puppy that may have been witness to a murder. How can a dog be a witness to something? Okay, just... Why am I asking questions? Who may have been witness to a murder. So it sounds like it might have a little bit of an edge. But yeah, it goes on to describe Velma as a pragmatic and scientific townie. And the strange and handsome new kid, Freddy, all team up, being compared, a 1-hour drama being compared to Riverdale, which is a show I never ended up keeping up with, but I enjoyed parts of it in front. Luke, it was the last thing Luke Perry did before he passed. I like seeing him. So anyway, this is fun. And again, Netflix is producing it, which means it'll be out next year, which means it'll be canceled next year. So good luck.
Guess who's behind this, Charlie? Who's gonna executive produce this? Greg Berlanti. Man, that dude has done everything.
He is the Arrowverse, but back before that, he was exactly. So we got to get him on Spotlight. We have Mark Guggenheim coming up, which is the Googs. Yeah, we're talking to him this week.
And he will say, "Never call me that."
Good. I'll let you talk first, so you can piss him off. And
then I'll pronounce that name there, Mr. Googs.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I was very lucky with Larry Nemechek, who we just Peter and I talked to earlier this week, who is Dr. Star Trek. He's the archivist of all of Star Trek. I got him to say his name. I got him to do. Isn't that
introduce yourself?
I got him to introduce himself. Isn't that one of those, like with a vampire? It's like one of those.
Allow yourself to introduce yourself.
It's
reverse Austin.
Mr. Mitzelplick. Isn't that you have to get him to say his name backwards?
That's how you trick him.
That's how I tricked him, exactly. So, but anyway, I
you just keep mispronouncing it enough times that he gets pissed off and say, "It's blah blah." Ha ha! I gotcha.
But yes, that's me plugging the hell out of our Spotlight show, of which we've had a lot of great stuff that we've done, and that's also coming up. All the more reason to tune into the Patreon for free, and etc. But anyway, that is the end of the news. Todd, we got to get out of here. Wait, I got to get out of here because you're already there. So I got to get the cheapest Uber I can find. This looks like it's a 72 Pinto. The guy still got his AM radio playing, and damned it if it's not this commercial I've heard 50 times before.
Hey, Secret Friends Unite, let me tell you about Zencastr. We use them for our show, and now they're supporting us. Zencastr is now the all-in-one solution making podcasting easy. It's the ultimate web-based podcasting solution. Provides high-quality audio and video podcast production and hosting. With a full suite of professional tools, podcasters can seamlessly record, produce, and publish studio-quality content, all from one dashboard. Being a creator has never been easier. And we chose Zencastr because of the ease of use, high quality output, and it makes it super easy for our guests to come on. We had multiple solutions we tried before, and Zencastr has just been the best fit for us. Why Zencastr? It's now super easy to record a podcast with Zencaster. Log in using your browser and start recording a high-quality podcast right away. Record studio-quality sounds and up to 4K video with your guests. Feel a sense of zen knowing Zencaster's multi-layered backups ensure you always have your recordings in the highest quality, even if the connection is unstable. Have you ever worried what you sound like? Zencaster's post-production process makes you sound buttery smooth. It automatically removes those ums and ahs in your recording. It removes those awkward pauses in conversation too. Set the right podcast loudness and levels while reducing background noise with the click of a button. So if you're interested in making an easy, high-quality podcast just with the click of a browser button, go to Zencaster.com/pricing and use my code SFU1. You'll get 30% off your first month of any Zencaster paid plan. I want you to have the same easy experiences I do for all my podcasting and content needs. It's time to share your story. Now back to the show.
Talk nerdy to me. Talk nerdy to me.
We're sitting in the Geek Easy, Coverband's playing, drinks are poured, and I just finished my shift. Charlie, I'm learning how to bartend.
Oh my God, ouch.
Picking up a separate job. I am like Isaac on the Love Boat, a Tom Cruise in Cocktail. I have only broken 25 bottles. You know what? It's getting better.
Yeah, you're paying them to be there. All right. Well, looks like we're watching a lot of the same stuff this week.
That's okay.
Why don't you get the ball rolling? What did we watch?
Yeah, Daredevil, they dropped They released 2 episodes this week, and it is a nighttime release. So it's like, I always forget it's not first thing in the morning. It's always like around 7, 8 o'clock at night. So you have to remember when it's on. So you're like, okay, it's Tuesday. I'm ready to watch it. Nope, not ready yet. So, but I did watch both episodes almost back to back, which I normally don't do because I'm like, it's late.
Yeah, we did. It comes on it's on at 9 p.m. Eastern. So but the episodes are with it because they always have those super long end credits because they got to show you all the voice actors from Taiwan and Norway and all these different
18
countries.
versions. Yeah.
So your 41-minute episode is really like 34 minutes long. So we were able to get in both before bed.
And they're not doing any weird like stingers as of yet, so which is fine with me because it's like when they don't do it and then they finally do it, it's like, well, I missed it because I'm not accustomed to watching that part.
Right.
But enough of the mechanics of how the sausage isn't made at Daredevil. What I wanted to talk about is specifically these 2 episodes because I feel like these 2 episodes are the best that Daredevil has been for me because we got the essential standalone issue that anybody could just watch and just have a great time. It's such a basic premise of Daredevil is trying to get a loan to improve Murdoch Associates, but he's over leveraged. And guess who we find out who the loan officer is?
Oh my goodness.
Khan's dad with a little Funko Pop. And
I love it.
Great.
I love it.
And now they're new best friends, Charlie. They're best friends. He's going to have dinner with Kamala's parents.
I know. So yeah, I love it. Daredevil has become, outside of the zaniness of Deadpool, has become the most crossoverable character in certainly Marvel television because he had a great bit.
Maybe he's secretly the anchor character. Maybe.
Oh, right. Okay. And then obviously he had a great stint in She-Hulk, which apparently we're never going to see She-Hulk again, which I think is a crime because that show was so much fun.
Exactly. I agree. Yes.
Yeah. So, but no, this was great. You're right. It was a standalone where there were bank robbers, very stereotypical Irishmen coming in, robbing a bank.
On St. Patrick's Day.
On St. Patrick's Day. Yeah. And this,
you know what? Yeah. Totally unrealistic stereotype. I mean, they should have been drinking. We did get a good Irish joke by an Asian woman, which was great. And they dropped F-bombs on the show. So, they're having a good time. But yeah, good episode, Charlie. I really enjoyed this. And although I did at times feel like Matt Murdock is looking over, like he's truly seeing it. And I know he's using his sensory perception, but at certain times I'm like, but just very fun episode of just stopping a bank robbery and then which I think comics always do great single issues. And I think TV series getting away from single issues at times has been I don't want a 10-hour movie. I want, a TV show, which is good
Right.
standalones, good connective arcs. And, Star Trek did it best when they did that. A lot of other shows, Buffy did that best. And I just feel like we've gotten so far away from it. And it's hurt a lot of shows. So I'm glad Daredevil's doing some of these.
Well, it may be the first of many, like many trends in storytelling. This, big, I think that's why we found, you remember I had you on Code 47 a couple of months ago, and our random episode was a selected episode of Discovery. You, me, and Peter all had a very hard time figuring out what to say about it, because even with the cap at the beginning, we were like, oh, well, when did this happen? And it was so interwoven with everything else going on, because every season of that show in particular was, this is our one storyline, it's this thing, it's that thing. And so you can't really pick up new viewers on the fly when when the story is just so very baked in. So yeah, I think that would be great. And it was effectively a break from the heaviness of what we get into in the next episode.
Oh God.
Yeah.
Yeah. This next episode really introduced Muse as the villain, scary dude, essentially non-communicative, a serial killer in some ways, an artistic serial killer who uses the blood of his victims to create art. They can't send it to graffiti because they find out it is blood in the art. And then a character, and I won't give it too much away, but Matt's connected to a character that gets abducted. Right. And that's what truly brings Matt back to the suit and realizing he needs to get back into action. A great battle that I love to pieces, and also then brought us back to a villain who is maybe more than we consider, because even though we thought he was down for the count, he's not.
Yeah, exactly. It was good stuff. Yeah, it was very gripping. And this is a show, and it's funny, Todd, when it was on Netflix, you were like, well, there's a couple of good fights or whatever it is, but I knew that you were not super crazy about the old Netflix show. And I definitely get the vibe, and I agree with you that this is just absolutely a step above.
It's a better balance. It's a better balance. It felt like the Netflix show was kind of like one note. It was all grim and gritty and didn't have any of those points of like, oh, there's some light. There's something there. The fact that we're getting Matt dating again, which I think is fun. Yeah. And it's helpful. We find out that twist that she's the therapist of the Kingpin too.
Kingpin and his wife. Yeah. It's great that it's all going to come together. Now we're getting eight episodes of this, because this ends so that Andor can come on, because it's the same slot, I'm pretty sure. So
I believe 8 or 9, and they filmed season 1 and 2 back to back. So they did 18.
Some of those season 2 episodes are starting to leak out, or images. So we've seen they got Daredevil in the black and red suit, and so if you look, there's stuff starting to squeak out. This is appointment viewing without a doubt. It's in our calendar, 9:00 on Tuesdays. We definitely tune in. So if this is bringing back appointment viewing, and if it's making an effort to bring back standalone stories, maybe there's some hope. That we can get at least. The appointment viewing is not such a big deal, but the standalone stories, I agree with you, is pretty critical. So cool.
Yeah.
All right. Well, moving right along, we did both see a film this week. This whole thing was filmed in Hungary, and I was thinking that's so weird, because the setting is like British Columbia, like rural Canada, which is where they film everything anyway.
That's true, because they had a Canadian policeman at the end.
And when they flew in at the beginning, April thought it was hilarious, because the guy said, the pilot is over the loudspeaker saying, "I'm so sorry."
They had Air Canada in the back.
They were working up. But anyway, we're talking about the movie. We talked about this trailer several weeks back, but it's called The Death of a Unicorn. This is Paul Rudd and Jenna Ortega, both in the MCU, and only one of them is trashing the MCU currently. Jenna Ortega came along and said, I was in Iron Man 3. I was the daughter of the evil vice president, and that's all I want to do with the MCU. I'm done. Yeah, right.
Well, I think she said she was cut out, but I'm like, how old were you? And you were just like an extra.
Yeah, I mean, she didn't. She said, I had a storyline that got cut out. I'm like, what the hell kind of storyline would you? You were a little girl in a wheelchair who only had one leg. That was your character. And where's the story? It's to be like, I lost in a car crash or something. I don't know. But anyway, she's a college-aged disaffected teen. He is a lawyer for what turns out to be an evil mega corporation. he lost his wife, the mom, several years prior to, I believe it was cancer, and they're going up to basically a rich hunting lodge for weirdos, which was also what Brad said at the beginning of the Rocky Horror Picture Show, is a sort of hunting lodge for rich weirdos. But no, the family that runs this company has this big lodge out in the great wilderness. So Paul Rudd and Jenna are driving in their car from the airport to get to this place, and Paul's driving too fast and he hits a creature in the road, which you just figure I hit a big dog or a horse or a bear. Well, it's a unicorn with rainbow blood.
Or it could be described as a equine mammalia with a protrusion. No, it's an effing unicorn.
Exactly. So they do the Tommy Boy thing, which they put the dead thing in the back of their car.
Oh my God. And then it's like, well, the funny part was, I think you know the premise. It won't spoil too much, but basically the funny part is Jenna Ortega is like, having that moment where she's, going to the creature and she's feeling it, and she touches the horn, has an experience, and all of a sudden she gets brought out of the communion because her dad is now hitting the unicorn with a tire iron and gets splattered with blood.
Right. So they move on, and then get to the rich lodge with the rich fucks, the guy, the family, and it's great. It's Richard E. Grant. Taya Leone, who I feel like I haven't seen in anything in forever, and then Will Poulter, who plays a great
which was Adam Warlock. Is that who he is?
He was Adam Warlock, and he's he's great, and I like him. And Richard E. Grant is just he was a villain in one of the Star Wars movies, and he's just always plays kind of generally a bad
Anthony
guy.
Kerrigan, who's been in many things. He's going to be Metamorpho playing Griff.
Griff. And we had the Pakistani woman is a stand-up.
Yeah, Sunita Mani playing Dr. Bhatia, Stephen Park as Dr. Song, and then we also had the woman I couldn't tell who it was, who was kind of like the enforcer, Jessica Haynes playing Shaw, who's kind of like.
That name sounds familiar. What else? No, nothing.
I don't know.
And again, filmed in Hungary, so maybe she was a local. But anyways, so they arrive at this place, and then shenanigans erupt because the creature they hit is not dead. And then mom and dad are it's the baby, so mom and dad are gonna come looking for it, which leads us back into things we've seen in the trailer. And it ends up being quite a romp.
It's a quirky movie.
Yeah.
It does not go where you think it is. It's not completely a comedy, not completely a horror film. There was one moment though that I was like, I don't know if you had the same moment.
The two the two unicorns rip someone in half because if that's what you were thinking.
No, it was the one came at the door. It's kind of like when you see the bad guy goes, I'm like, oh. I'm shocked.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. But no, this was a fun movie. I don't know that it's lighting any bells on fire in the box office. Are you looking at some numbers?
I wouldn't think so. I don't even know what I don't even know what the budget was. It couldn't have been too high, but it did have CG with two big unicorns.
Right.
I don't want to spoil anything else. It had unicorns in it.
Right.
And they were pretty impressive, kind of dangerous, but
like Clydesdales, really. They were that kind of beefy.
Yeah. Like my uncle used to own like those type of horses for like shows and things. So, the characters are so goofy and weird.
Yeah.
And, Paul Rudd doing his best Paul Rudd, kind of a heel at the beginning of this. So I'm kind of he had an interesting arc. And some touching moments. And no stinger at the end of this, folks. Don't stick around. But there was something at the end. I'm like, oh, interesting take. But yeah.
Yeah, I thought
movie.
I thought the very end, because the camera cuts away, was very interesting. Yeah, fun movie. I'd go see it. Go out and see it. Go out and support it. I like Jenna Ortega, as opposed to Rachel Ziegler, who's Snow White now, who's getting herself in all kinds of trouble.
Yeah. Jennifer Ortega is the it girl to play. Who, if you need somebody to play that quirky, kind of broody, kind of snotty character.
So she's like, and ironically enough, that she was the daughter in Beetlejuice to Winona Ryder, who was that for us in Gen X.
Yes, she was our generation. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. So, all right, well, moving on over on Hulu/Disney Plus, which I thought we started on Hulu, and I thought, we'll switch over to Disney Plus and it won't have the commercials. They still get the commercials in there. I'm telling you. But anyway, an 8-part almost thought it was a miniseries, but it does end on a cliffhanger, which you talked about a couple of weeks ago, is Paradise. And I got to tell you, I had no idea that this was even a science fiction program, because it starts out just a regular, here's a guy, he's a Secret Service agent, he's protecting the president. And as you said, this happens in the first 10 minutes of the episode, so I'm not spoiling too much. He walks in one day and the president has been murdered. He's been bludgeoned to death.
That's episode 1, folks. So just to feel like this happens later on. Yeah. That's why I'm like, I felt so bad because I can't say much because so much happens in this. And I'm on episode 6, so I'm not completely done, but I have been watching quite a bit.
I apologize for mentioning the cliffhanger piece, but that's much.
I had heard it does. And I mean, this show is getting, everybody's talking about the show right now. And I've been avoiding spoilers, but yeah, man, Charlie, I mean, it's got some great acting, some really cool stuff. It
really grabbed us, and April was like, well, let's just keep watching it, because it was, I don't know if it was a date drop, but it started at the end of February. It must have all dropped at once, because the date is, if you look at the promo art, it says February 23rd or something, which is my birthday, late February. And that's a month ago, and all 8 episodes are out. So I just get the feeling they just dropped them, or maybe they dropped. Yeah. Maybe they did 2 and 2. Reacher also wrapped up this week. I don't know. Have you finally got into the 3rd season of Reacher? No,
it just feels like a show I know will always be there for me, Charlie. It doesn't feel like it's like must-see TV.
Yeah, and to be honest with you, it was the weakest of the 3 seasons, so I wouldn't kill yourself over it. So
there's no last-minute, like, over-the-top Sylvester Stallone ending of the plotline. There
absolutely was, because it was Reacher finally took on the giant guy that you've seen in all the trailers.
Oh yeah,
they had like a 10-minute fight, and apparently Alan Ritchson does all his own stunts, so he really got hurt in one of the stunts.
Maybe you want to stop doing that.
Yeah, you're not Tom Cruise, even though Tom Cruise was also Reacher. And then real quickly, we did watch, as soon as we signed up to Apple TV Plus, we watched The Gorge. I enjoyed it. I had no idea what was at the bottom of the gorge, so that was super cool. It felt it felt like Silent Hill, which is a terrible movie that I enjoy because it's so terrible. I really enjoyed The Gorge. And I think this was not one that I think needed to be in the theaters at all. I think it's in a good spot on Apple Plus, where you can turn the lights off and watch it on your big TV. And I thought that it was pretty great. So good stuff coming out.
I think that movie is, I really enjoyed it, but it did feel like the first 2/3 were like a very cute rom-com.
Yeah, big time.
And then it turned into
that. Yeah.
Yeah, and then the ending, and I'm trying to remember, like, okay, oh yeah, and then it turned into Cocktail at the end. Which I'm like, that was an interesting
premise. Like the last 5 minutes, but it was really cool. I liked it. And Sigourney Weaver was the villain. She was really villainous at the end of it, because she was the big big bad boss. Of the whatever corporation.
Who would have known there was a crossover between that movie and Avatar, where she shows up as the blue woman?
Oh God, that's right. Oh, well, that's what happened. That when you go into the gorge, you go into a portal, and you're on the
Pandora.
Pandora for Unobtainium.
Yep.
Oh God, I hate those movies. I'm sorry. I know we've talked about this a lot.
Really? I've never heard you talk about that before, Charlie.
Oh my gosh. All right.
Please look back on the past 50 episodes, or probably 50 episodes. You probably mentioned that before.
Oh, we have another one of those coming out at the end of this year, don't we? Oh, let's hope. I want Wicked 2 to just destroy it. That's what I want.
Wicked 2 for good.
Yes. Wicked 2 for good for later. But anyway, that wraps us up out of the Geek Easy. I have my phone out. The Air Qantas app is open. We've got to get that flight to the land down under, where Hologram Tina and the mutants are awaiting for us to talk about the MCU. Where's it going? What's it doing? And that kind of stuff. So let's do it.
Welcome to another edition of Thunderdome.
Thank you, Tina. The mutants have been gathered for a topic or game to be entertained. And this week, we are looking and figuring out who will be brought in to Doomsday and left behind in regards to the characters of the MCU and associated Fox Marvel properties that we've had that have been released in, just think about it, over the last 20 years.
It'll be 20. Iron Man came out in 2008, and we are in 2025, so we're very close to kissing 20 years, which is nuts. Yeah, so
absolutely.
We've had, and then this list, this is an informal list. We're just going to riff a bit, so we're not going off of something specific.
So maybe we should go through this, like, yes or no, and how? Right?
Yeah, okay.
That's how we
All
should do
right.
this, Charlie.
I'll kick it off because this is easy. The Inhumans. No.
So yes or no. So you're saying no.
Yep. Nope.
I'm saying yes, but it will not be the whole Inhumans family. I bet they will bring in a Crystal maybe, or a Medusa or someone of that ilk to be brought in, because I don't think
both Crystal was a member of the Fantastic Four. Crystal was a member of the Avengers. Medusa was a member of the Fantastic Four. So ties, classic ties.
And didn't Crystal date Johnny?
Crystal did date Johnny, but she was married to Quicksilver, had his baby. So but we don't have a Quicksilver in this universe anymore.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we might.
Well, we might. Right? Can't keep back Evan Peters.
And then we know that probably, if we're thinking Black
Bolt, because we've got
is dead. Maybe it's that version. Just never going to come back.
Yeah.
Okay, Charlie. Kang.
Well, it's funny. There was a recent article that, again, it's one of these nothing burgers like, well, Jonathan Majors says he wants to finish his arc. I mean, it depends on how toxic he is. He obviously went through a lot of trouble with the domestic. And I can't really remember the resolution of his domestic abuse accusations, if whatever it was, but it got him fired from being the focus of these next two films. And that's why we now have Dr. Doom. So I think there's an equal chance they could bring it back, but I kind of think no. I kind of think they're not going to try to reinvent it maybe so quickly, maybe somewhere down the road. But I feel like for these two films that we're talking about, it's not going to happen.
I say yes, but it's not going to be specifically Jonathan Majors. It's going to be that world of Kangs, or that group of Kangs.
Yeah.
We're going to see quickly Tony Stark / Dr. Doom take care of the issue. And Kang is dealt with without having to see Jonathan Majors, because how many different versions of those Kangs we saw that really barely even look like him.
I mean, one of them is an ancestor of Mr. Fantastic, so he's Pedro Pascal's ancestor, or whatever. Hercules, Roy from that show we love, Ted Lasso, who had an absolutely great role in Shrinking season 2, Shrinking the series. But I'd like to see him back. I think he and Thor could at some point, have kind of a buddy cop kind of thing happening. So I'm going to say yes.
I think so too, because I think what you'll do is, we did see other gods in the last Thor movie with, we had Zeus and things like that. So I think you would get, because especially if, how long is Chris Hemsworth going to stick around? So having a member of another family of gods where you could introduce other gods makes sense. So I think you would see him pop up again in a different way. Which then we should probably go to the next one, which was Pip, which was shown with Hercules, right? Was it?
No. He was.
I'm thinking of Star Fox. Yes. Right?
Star Fox.
I'm adding him Star Fox to the list. Okay, so it was just Hercules, not.
And Star Fox was an Avenger in the 80s. He's the rapey Avenger because his ability is he makes people feel pheromones and stuff. So really kind of a problematic character, to be honest with you.
Also a Titan and brother to Thanos.
Pip the Troll was a character much like Thanos who died off in the 70s, but came back for the Infinity Gauntlet. So he was born again. But he was voiced by Patton Oswalt, my personal
Star Fox was Harry Styles.
I know, and Pip was really really poorly animated. So I'd like to be honest with you, I really would like to see neither, and that lumps right back to the Eternals in general.
Well, so let's hit on these. So Star Fox, Harry Styles, yes, no. Okay, no. I would also say no. I think he's just too big, and he doesn't really make sense now outside of a Thanos living thing. I think Pip could, because I think the galactic portion of this world is not done. We could see Nova come back, Nova, that character developed, and maybe we get a more of a galactic future. So I think Pip is a fun, smoking little dude that could add some fun and comedic to it.
But you skipped over your least favorite, which is the son of the Hulk, I know that you had a dig on him recently, Scar. Another like really poorly animated, like super throwaway.
Horrible.
Yeah, so I'm gonna say I'm gonna this for me. It's gonna be more of a I hope not. You didn't even put She-Hulk in this list because
Didn't even have a line of dialogue, Charlie. He was just, here's my son Scar, and he looks around like nervously.
Right.
No clue, nothing given there. That was the weirdest drop in the world. So if he does come back, he is just going to be like a cameo because there's a lot of explaining to do, and I don't think they're going to spend any time explaining him. So I would say no.
And I would say the same thing for the She-Hulk, unfortunately. We all loved it, but it was a fourth wall breaking. She was like Deadpool, and people for some reason didn't like it. People for some reason were really down on it, which I think sucks.
Well, when it's sometimes they want to see characters not in a certain light, and when they went a goofy way, Marvel really hasn't had that goofy like over the top sitcom. Yeah. So I get it. I mean, that wasn't what a lot of people were looking for. They wanted like a badass, like the Savage She-Hulk.
Right.
I think she will come back, Charlie, because I think Mark Ruffalo is getting to be an old dude. And I think at this point, they would want like a new generation of heroes. And I think she fits in well. She's got a good set. She's a great actress. Yeah. Love her to pieces. So I think she will come back.
Well,
you always need a Hulk.
Yeah, I hope so. Now, we didn't really touch on the Eternals. Again, it's a group of characters. At the end of their movie, they tried to do the start your engines thing where like, oh, we're setting up the sequel. And that's when we got, Star Fox and Pip came in because they were the stinger of that. But we know that Richard Madden's character is dead. He ended up being the villain. And then the rest of them got kidnapped. Saoirse was kind of the main character, Gemma Chan, if I'm not mistaken. She was an Avenger in the 90s, Leather Jackets era. She was one of them. So I would say she's kind of the main focus because, again, other members of that group were terrible. Like Sprite was awful. They killed off Salma Hayek's character. So I think it's gonna, and then we had. Kunail's character was
we did see him in What If. See him in What If.
Right.
And I think he potentially is one of the characters that show up. Maybe Cersei, but I think it will be maybe one or two that are brought in.
Yeah, but as far as the dynasty of it going on, that
we won't see really the whole team together. We won't have that. We'll have more along lines of they'll be brought in as needed, whether it's for a galactic thing or to show up as a.
And they tried to make a big effort because they had Jon Snow as the Black Knight. I can't remember the actor's name. But they tried to tie it back to Blade by having the voiceover by Marshawn Ali. And we've already talked about how that is dead stick. That's just not really something. So, and the Black Knight was part of that same Avengers team that Cersei was on in that whole dynasty in the early 90s.
I think he could come back, but tied more to like the mystical side of the Marvel universe. If he's going to have that Blade is going to have some mystical powers brought in with like Doctor Strange and maybe Ghost Rider or whatever. So I think Black Knight.
Yeah. Now
come back.
This next one is a real question mark because we're talking about Carol Danvers, Captain Marvel, Brie Larson. That movie was a massive failure. Massive failure. So you got to think about the fact that Disney wants to push the stink off as opposed to let's keep the stink around. So you just wonder how kind of marginalized this, because this is a character that started out very high and fell very low. So it really makes you wonder what they really want to do with it. So I think it's possible that she could come back, but as far as having another film again, I think there's zero chance.
No, I don't think she gets another film. I don't think a lot of single characters from the past are getting another film, to be honest, a solo film or something like that. But I think she could be involved. Because it's weird because they kind of iced her in a lot of ways from obviously the bigger movies. She was brought in Endgame very temporarily.
Yep.
So she's so overpowered that it would make sense that maybe she is brought in, but basically Doctor Doom finds some way to like.
She's kind of the closer, but even when she went,
her, or she's brought in to close things out, kind of like
like with Thanos, exactly.
Like Superman at the end of Justice League.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Because she is a very equivalent to Superman. She's so powerful. And speaking of failures, Secret Invasion was a tremendous failure for Marvel. Super expensive, critically destroyed. And the villain of it was a version of the Super Skrull, which is a great Fantastic Four villain. I love it. It was a Build-A-Figure a couple of years ago that I think I wasn't able to finish it, so I had to buy a couple of the pieces or whatever. Or maybe my partner, Derek, the figure dude, helped me find it. I love the character. Awesome character. But for the chances of that coming back now, that would be because it really ended up being, because there was the big fight at the end. It was Amelia Clark, right?
Yes.
Okay. I felt like I got the last name wrong. And the other dude whose name I can't remember, having this big slug out fest. And did one of them die and one of them live? See, I can't even remember.
Yes. Yeah. What's his name? Guy Handsome Man from Bridgerton.
Yes. Mr. Bridgerton.
Yes, and she was never seen again. She was like Poochied, where she now has all the powers of all the Avengers.
And she flew off.
She is,
she did a White Vision. Oh, that's another one we have. Well, he's got
that is true. Well, we know he's coming back.
He's have a show coming up. Yeah.
But yeah, I don't think she comes back because I just think it was poor planning and just not a good take on what you could have done. So I think she's out.
Yeah.
So we'll go through these a little bit faster. Thing.
Yeah, you're right. Man Thing. Yeah, totally. And same with Werewolf by Night. Because
yes,
I
think they're both back. Future of the Marvel Supernatural probably not coming back for Doomsday just because too many characters.
The same thing with Moon Knight. He lumps into that group. He
is going to be a character that is a contributor, not a solo artist, is the best way to put it. He collaborates. Doesn't put out solo albums. Yeah.
Now the Nova Corps, because Xandar was decimated by Thanos. That is a throwaway line that Thor had in Infinity War. So maybe not the Nova Corps, but Nova himself. We know that character is in development at some stage. It's out there.
The project got canceled, but it doesn't mean that character would not or put on hold, whatever you want to call it. But I think it makes sense to do there's no more Nova Corps, but Richard Rider
just a dude,
gets the helmet. Yeah, he's got one of the most powerful things in the world, and he's brought in to form a young team that Kamala apparently is setting up, as we read that spoiler potentially what's going to happen.
And then you mentioned the Guardians of the Galaxy. I feel like they put a pin in that. But we do know Star-Lord's coming back because that was the little crawl at the end of Guardians 3. So his character will endure. We know Batista's done. He's not coming back. They split up the team proper. We have a newer team.
Oh, he's a pirate. She's not coming back.
Yeah. So the Guardians that we saw in the films, not coming back in that fashion.
Could show up. I think maybe he could show up.
Yeah.
Some of those family members, some of those team members could come back.
Yeah. The
Rocket.
Black Panther, we know that Letitia Wright is in the film. We saw she was one of the names. But as far as if the question is there going to be another film? They have that animated show coming out that's a prequel. But as far as another film, I'm not terribly certain. Ironheart is a show that's coming out.
We're getting that. She was not shown as a name though in the movie. So will she be in it potentially as part of the young team that Kamala gets? So once again, maybe not in Doomsday, but maybe in Secret Wars she shows up, and then we'll see if she becomes more of a bit player and doesn't. Like I said, I don't know a lot of these characters will get solo projects or get a second solo project, but they will get probably brought in as needed.
And even really the rest of I'll run through the list because I feel like it's all kind of lumped together. If we're looking outside the MCU, so we're looking at series like The Runaways, Cloak and Dagger, Hellstrom, which the one thing I've never watched. Let's do
these really quick. So Runaways, yes, no, Charlie.
No.
I say yes with a caveat of maybe a character coming through.
Yeah. So Cloak and Dagger, not a chance. No, Hellstrom. I never watched it, so I'm going to say based on that, I would have watched it if it was worthwhile.
Maybe as Damian Hellstrom, but these Jokers, not his kids. No.
Yeah.
Legion.
I saw an episode or two, so I can't even really give a great opinion. I don't think so. It doesn't seem like it would fit. Where's the fit?
I mean, it would be a huge reach, but I would love to see that character of Legion reintroduced because he's a cool concept character.
Yeah.
The Gifted.
No
way in hell.
We enjoyed that show, but no. I think stuff that gets canceled, they're not going to jump out and be like, we're going to get it in. The Fox movies, I think they've done as much integrate. We know that they're doing integrating. Are we going to pull in other characters? I don't know.
Trying to think anything else. Ghost Rider. I think Ghost Rider comes back.
Yep. Yeah.
Any other movies? I mean, we've getting Daredevil series, so Ben Affleck. Maybe Ben Affleck, and we did get Jennifer Garner as Electro, so maybe Ben Affleck does show up as Daredevil.
Yeah.
Colin Farrell showing up as a bullseye. That would be kind of fun.
Absolutely. You know? He's too busy being the Penguin.
That's true.
The Defenders, meaning so now we talk about the Fox shows, the Defenders, which is Jessica and Luke Cage and Iron Fist and then Daredevil. I mean, we're already getting some. I feel like I've heard talk that Jessica Jones is in the running, or maybe she's just the actress is just talking it up. Yeah, it's possible. But as far as the real heroes for hire, Luke Cage and Iron Fist, Iron Fist, no, because we've got Shang-Chi. So why do we need Iron Fist? You know what I mean? It's the same kind of. Yeah.
Or we find out, that Danny Rand died in an elevator, but we got a new inductee to the Iron Fist Hall of Fame, and we're getting a new Iron Fist because that does pass down. The Iron Fist does pass down to generations,
right? And then Luke Cage, Power Man, the other half of that team. I would love it. I don't know where. Mike Coulter? I don't know where he's at.
The last thing he did was Evil on CBS, which was a really good show.
So, yeah, I watched a bit of it. Yeah, but
I say bring him back. Have him and Jessica show up. Find out that they hook up. Now are a couple, and they help out Daredevil. But really, I would like to see both of them come back.
Yeah, those are the two, because Daredevil's been such a success. Maybe they do it as well. So I don't know. I mean, that's the list. I would say to anybody who's listening, hit us up on socials. What did we miss?
See if we missed anything.
Yeah, see if we missed anything, because there's so much stuff, and we didn't get into stuff that was pre-millennium.
Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
We didn't do Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
We did not talk about Generation X. We did not talk about the Hoff and Nick Fury. Yeah. So we didn't talk about the 70s Spider-Man or the 70s, the Lou Ferrigno as the Hulk. We didn't talk about him. They could cast him as Maestro. That's when you get some idiot on social media.
Maybe we get Firestar and Miss Lion. And Ice, future X-Men film.
A real old Ice Aunt May in her little wheelchair with the blanket. But yeah, that's the show. Hit us up on socials. Like I said, let us know what we missed. And Todd, if they wanted to do that and talk to you specifically, where would they find you?
You can find me specifically at Todd Oxtra on the Blue Skies, and for anything Secret Friends Unite, we are on at Secret Friends Unite, sometimes with dots, on either Threads, Instagram, or on Blue Sky as well.
Charlie likes to keep it simple, because I am at the C3 at everything. TheCeeThree. Finally, yes, I had to finally get that turned around. That's Threads, Blue Sky, and Instagram. But I spent a hell of a lot of my time over on our Secret Friends Unite Discord, which is easy to find. If you don't find it, ping one of us on the socials. We'll send you an invite. But we want to have you there because we like to talk about geek stuff there. And that's it. That's the show. Friends, as always, thank you for joining us. I'm going to tell you that sharing is caring. Keep on trucking.
Be the hero, not the villain.
In a truck.
You've been gorged.
This podcast is part of the Secret Friends Unite podcasting network, available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and podcast services around the galaxy, as well as video on our YouTube channel. You can support Secret Friends Unite by becoming a Patreon member, get bonus programs and more over at patreon.com/secretfriendsunite. Join our Discord community for even more discussions on all things geek. For all the latest updates on Secret Friends Unite, make sure to follow us on Threads at secret.friends.unite and visit secretfriendsunite.com. Find our merchandise at TeePublic and Redbubble. Thanks for listening, and may the Force live long and prosper.